Welcome to the My Fishing Cape Cod podcast. The My Fishing Cape Cod podcast is your local source for the latest news and information on fishing Cape Cod. Now, here's your host, Kevin Collins.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the My Fishing Cape Cod podcast presented by Cape Islands Mitsubishi. I'm your host, Kevin Collins, back with you for podcast episode number 1 of the 2024 fishing season. It's been a great start to the year already. We're off and running fast and furious with a variety of species in our waters here off Cape Cod. We're going to have another full podcast season in store for you this year from My Fishing Cape Cod. And I, for one, am very excited to share the action with you. So let's get right to it by bringing in our first guest. Well, as usual, our very first guest on the very first episode of the My Fishing Cape Cod podcast for 2024, presented by Cape Islands Mitsubishi, is none other than MFCC founder and creator Ryan Collins. And Ryan, welcome in to podcast number 1, my friend.
Yeah, good to get this going again, Kevin. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. I'm happy to be back to work. The temperatures have kind of improved a bit this week, and we got a little bit of that summer feel in the air here on Cape Cod.
We definitely did, yeah. Yesterday was really, really nice. Today, rainy. Looks like this weekend's got to be a little rainy too, but, you know, the fishing's been good. It's been a solid start. A lot of tautog around, a lot of stripers, and I know today we've got Amy from Sports Port joining us, so I'm very excited to hear what she has to say.
Yeah, and right off the top of the bat, Ryan, let's talk a little bit of shop here with the podcast for the 2024 season. We're going to change the format from what we've done in previous seasons where we had sort of a weekly formatted fishing report podcast that ran, from 35 to 45 minutes with 3 or 4 guests. We're going to break up that podcast this season and do several individual podcasts, and I'll let you elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, we'll be publishing podcasts more regularly throughout the week. We'll be talking with Evan from Eastman Sport and Tackle. We'll be talking to the Goose Hummock. We'll be talking to Red Top, Sports Port, as well as other, anglers from My Fishing Cape Cod. Bruno will be chiming in with his Monomoy report. And I just figured it'd be more helpful to publish these in smaller, more bite-sized chunks as soon as we record them to get the latest intel to the members and the fans. And each week we're going to select one of these podcasts and share it publicly on iTunes. And the rest of the podcasts will be available over on myfishingcapecod.com for members.
Well, I'm really looking forward to another great season, Ryan. And before I let you go and we get to our first guest, I just want you to give a little bit of an overview about your past week. I know you've had a chance to get out on the water, and from following your Instagram handle, the My Fishing Cape Cod Instagram handle, I've seen you've had some success.
Yeah, the tautog fishing has been great. We started getting into them on April 27th. We've done quite a few My Fishing Cape Cod group trips for Tog and Buzzards Bay and been limiting out on just about every one of those trips. At the beginning of this week, towards the end of last week, we started getting into some nice stripers in Buzzards Bay, more than likely migratory fish that were chasing tinker mackerel. Captain Tyler of Flatliner Charters put several clients on some really good fishing with some surprisingly big fish, slot-sized stripers, a couple over slot fish, again, over in Buzzards Bay. I think that quieted down a little bit today, but keep an eye on that, Kevin. Once this weather improves a little bit, hopefully those fish will come back up. And then I've been doing a lot of surf casting this past few days here, taking members from the site to some spots in Cape Cod Bay, actually. And we've caught fish up to 36 inches already. So I'm going to be writing up a report, publishing that on the site for members shortly here. So a very good start to the year for tog and for some surprisingly large fish, stripers, that is, bigger than expected for first week of May.
Well, Ryan, before I let you go, I know another thing you wanted to get out to the masses here is there's a meetup event coming up this Saturday. Can you talk a little bit about that and give us the details?
This Saturday, May 11th, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Sandy Neck Beach in Barnstable. We're having our 5th annual long-distance casting competition and surfcasters meetup. So this is a really fun event. You don't have to participate in the competition. It's just a great opportunity to get some surfcasters together. We'll be there rain or shine. Again, it's free, open to the public from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Sandy Neck Beach this Saturday.
All right, Ryan, I'll let you get back at it. We're going to head on to our visit with Amy Wrightson, and we'll look forward to catching up with you later on down the line.
Sounds good, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Well, as promised, our guest on today's episode of the My Fishing Cape Cod podcast is our great friend Amy Wrightson from down at the beautiful Sports Port in Hyannis, Massachusetts. Amy, how you doing? Happy spring.
Happy spring, Kevin. Thanks for having me back. I'm so excited to do this again with you and ready to kick off another season.
Yeah, it's been a sluggish start to the spring weather-wise. We had a taste of summer the last couple days this week, but now we're back into the rain. But how's it been down there at the shop? Has it been pretty busy?
So, yeah, like you said, it's been very weather dependent. You know, like the sun comes out and everyone comes out of the woodwork, and then it gets cold and rainy again, and everyone kind of goes into hiding.
You've had a chance to get out on the water and do some striper fishing. And can you just give us a recap of some of those early season trips?
Yeah, so I've been out in my kayak a couple of times. I did some wade fishing too, but you know, there's a lot going on. So I've managed to find some schoolie bass just going on the south side, and that's just really fun to catch striped bass again. I feel like it's been a while. And there's a lot of fish around. I've talked to some other guys who have found slot-sized fish and bigger. It's all kind of happening. I don't know what this all this rain coming up here is going to do, but it's such a fun time of year, and there's a lot of different fish being caught right now.
Now, for the schoolie size that you were predominantly running into, I'm assuming those were fresh migratory fish that were pretty hungry. What was it like targeting those fish? What did you have some success on?
So it was really soft plastics. For me, the Albie snacks were working really well. White and amber in particular were doing well. And they actually just came out with a bigger size. It's like I think they call it the XL. So that will be pretty fun because they cast really well, and it's just a bigger profile. Same bait, just bigger. I didn't have any success on that. I think the ones that I were catching were just in the 20, 24-inch range. Yeah, so soft plastics for sure.
In terms of those larger fish that you've heard reports of, it's really promising, you know, this early in the season as we're taping, just starting the second full week of May. I usually don't get my first striper till almost May 10th generally here inside the bay, but obviously the south side gets some exposure a little quicker. So it's great to hear that there's some of those larger fish. In terms of guys coming in the shop, what seems to be some of the, I'll say the hot lures or the hot items going off the shelves, perhaps to target maybe some of those slot size fish?
Yeah, I would say, the Albie snacks or the Ronzies, Joe bags, those are working very well. I think I talked to a couple guys who also did well on topwater. So jumping minnow is like a pretty popular springtime.
Well, that's really good to hear. And while we're in the middle of talking about lures, I understand you went through a little bit of a facelift or an overhaul in the store, and you've added some awesome new inventory for offshore saltwater fishing. Can you just give us a little bit of a verbal tour of the new and improved Sports Port in Hyannis?
Yeah, I'm so psyched. My husband, Travis, came in and put slat wall up, which sounds, pretty standard and basic, but it just, it feels really good. It feels light and bright and organized, and we're able to fit a little more inventory in a relatively small shop. So it just feels, bigger and more organized when you come in. And then, like you said, we, I don't know if you remember, but last year I went out fishing like south of the islands, half a dozen times with one of the guys that works here, Ben, and we were going for tuna mostly, and so that kind of got me excited about some of the offshore opportunities. So we're carrying a little bit of offshore stuff in the shop now, which is exciting.
So you went out and got the tuna bug last year, Amy. I hear it's a very popular flu, that goes around these parts on Cape Cod.
It is, yeah. It's not a bad bug to have.
So we talked a little bit about striped bass and what the shop has to offer and the new offshore section. Let's talk a little bit about the other species that can be targeted this time of year. I know sea bass is probably about to start, if not has already started, and I know tautog is another species that guys target as well, along with those sea bass.
Yeah, so people were catching some black sea bass. The season hasn't opened just yet. It's later in May, and the tog fishing has been, I think, much better in Buzzards Bay as far as ratio of keepers to small fish. Closer to us in Nantucket Sound, people are going and catching. They just have to throw back a lot of smaller fish. And they are getting keepers and they are getting their limits, but it just takes a little more work and a lot more green crabs specifically.
Well, it's good to hear they're eating the green crabs. That's always seems to be the bait of choice. And the season's going to open up on May 18th, so that's about 10 days away from us recording. So by the time we do our next visit, we'll be really in the thick of it of guys going out there. But I got to think it's a promising sign for people to hear that those fish are already showing up. Yeah,
definitely. So guys going out for squid, they were saying they were getting scup and black sea bass as well. So the scup are in. I haven't heard of them coming in close enough to get them from shore, but the guys in the boats were getting scup as well. And also some smaller bluefish, maybe like 2-3 pounders. But there's a lot of fish right now, and people are going out and getting them if you can catch that weather break.
Yeah, we just touched on, scup and sea bass and bluefish and striper. And I know you mentioned squid. It just seems like there must be, especially on the south side, a ton of different bait, options, or just a lot of squid, perhaps. What are you seeing or hearing reports of in terms of the bait situation out there?
Yeah, so tons of bait in the water. There's squid, obviously. The squid fishing has been a little slow, but people are, getting a 5-gallon bucket load. And there's actually bunker around. The herring runs have been loaded for, over a month now. So there's certainly a lot of bait in the water.
Yeah, the herring runs seem to have a really nice spring. A lot of people were posting some awesome threads and different things on social media of going to visit them, and it's always a spectacle to watch those fish make their journey. One of the things I wanted to ask about the bunker, what's being spotted out there?
Yeah, the adult menhaden. Yeah, bigger bunker, where you can snag them or net them. They're a big-sized bunker.
That's awesome to hear, and it's, I know, a hot-button topic at times. There's a lot of those big seining vessels that go out and try to scoop those fish up to make different products and fish oils. But while those fish are here, certainly a great bait option if you're trying to snag one and potentially rehook it with a circle hook to target a big striper.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Striper candy, as they say. I talked to another customer who was fishing over on the north side, and he said he saw, stripers vertical in the water, and so they were just nosing down for the sand eels in the sand.
Very cool.
Yeah. So sand eels on the north side.
Now, that would be a really cool behavior, too, for Ryan to go get his GoPro and try to capture. I think that would be awesome. Super cool. Yes. And I think interesting from an angler's perspective as well, just to watch, I'll say, that technique from the fish, right, and be able to eat.
Absolutely. Yeah, tell Ryan to hurry up and get out there.
Now, from a freshwater perspective, Amy, I know you guys also, service a lot of the freshwater fishermen, and the springtime is a beautiful time on Cape Cod to explore all the different kettle ponds and different streams and rivers that we have. What have you been hearing in terms of the freshwater bite?
Yeah, so freshwater has also been really active. A little while ago, we weighed in a really beautiful 5-pound brown trout from Jack Andres. He was fishing in one of the local ponds and caught this beautiful fish. So that was pretty fun to see that. And, people going for bass right now, I think they're like pre-spawn or, on their beds right now. So the largemouth bass has been pretty good fishing as well.
Can you talk a little bit about what you guys have for the freshwater anglers? I know we spend a lot of time on saltwater, but especially this time in the spring, I don't want to neglect those freshwater listeners we have. I'm assuming you guys have shiners, but I'm assuming you also have a lot of other stuff as well.
Yeah, so we have, all the freshwater bait. We have, live shiners, night crawlers, trout worms, mealworms, and then all of the lures. So, when I go freshwater with my kids, we use a lot of, Senkos or rubber worms. It's just so easy with the single hook. And, a lot of people have started doing the Ned rigs, which, if you're familiar, it's just a really small, soft plastic, like a small rubber worm. And you can just use like a flat, like mushroom head jig. And the idea is it just stands up on the bottom and the tail floats up. And you can, move it every so often and get a bass to pick that up off the bottom. So, we do that, and we have all the, spoons and crankbaits and Rapala floaters and quite a selection of freshwater lures as well.
And the last thing I want to ask you about on my list is, since we're pre-Memorial Day, and this is our first podcast visit of the season, let's talk a little bit about the store hours, when you guys are open, as we're not quite yet in the full summer season.
Yeah, so right now our Hyannis location, we're 9 to 5:30 Monday through Saturday, and we're 9 to 4 on Sunday. Our Osterville location will open up Memorial Day weekend, and at some point here, it is kind of weather dependent and fish dependent, but we'll start opening at 7 in the morning every day and be open till 6 in the evening.
The Hyannis location, it's 149 West Main Street, Hyannis. So it's a great spot in a new look to the store. So
yes, we're excited about getting a little facelift in the shop and having more inventory selection. So it's definitely a fun time of year.
And I look forward to having another great season with you, Amy. We're going to visit every other week as we push through the fishing calendar into probably early October. So buckle up, get ready. I hope you had a good winter nap, because it's going to be a busy season for us.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
My thanks to Amy Wrightson of Sports Port in Hyannis for joining us on this edition of the My Fishing Cape Cod podcast presented by Cape Islands Mitsubishi. I also want to thank MFCC founder and creator Ryan Collins for joining us for a minute off the top of the program. It's going to be a great 2024 fishing season, a great 2024 podcast season, and as Ryan mentioned, this is just the start. This is going to be the first episode of many that we publish weekly here between now and October. So that's going to put the wraps on episode number 1. I'm Kevin Collins, and until we chat again, tight lines and take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the My Fishing Cape Cod podcast. For the latest local news, information, and fishing reports, be sure to log on to myfishingcapecod.com. From all of us at My Fishing Cape Cod, tight lines and take care.